She was the kind of girl who made small towns feel bigger. Mandy Stavik, blonde, athletic, brilliant. Beloved by teachers, envied by peers, and adored by her family. Her laugh? The kind that could slice through the chill of an autumn morning in the Pacific Northwest. But on the day after Thanksgiving, 1989, Mandy vanished. She left her family home in the sleepy town of Acme, Washington, laced up her shoes, and went for a run. It was something she did all the time. She jogged along the same winding roads near the Nooksack River, where fir trees crowded the path like watchful sentries. She never came back, and what followed was a decades-long silence, so heavy, so cruel, that it would haunt Acme like a ghost. This is the story of how a quiet American town buried a secret that stayed buried for 27 years, until a mother, a piece of cake, and a forgotten memory cracked it wide open. But first, make sure you stay with us till the very end, because just when you think you know how this ends, you'll realize you don't. And if you're new to Crime Vault, hit that subscribe button now. We tell the stories that others are afraid to whisper. Now let's go back to where it all began. The Girl in the River, November 24th, 1989. Thanksgiving leftovers still sat on plates when Mandy Stavik, 18 years old and home from her first semester of college, announced she was going out for a run with the family dog Kyra. Her mother, Mary, didn't think twice. Mandy had done this hundreds of times. She was training to stay in shape for the Western Washington University cross-country team. Her route was familiar, winding down Strand Road and cutting near the woods by the Nooksack River. Hours passed. Dusk arrived. The dog came back. Alone. Kyra, panting and scratched, collapsed on the porch. But Mandy never followed. Panic bloomed in Mary's chest. Calls were made. Search teams deployed. The small town of Acme, so quiet it barely made maps, erupted into a flurry of flashlights and shouted names. Volunteers combed forests, dredged riverbanks, and whispered prayers into the wind. 3 days later, they found her. Mandy's body had drifted miles downstream, naked, bruised, her shoes gone, her spirit extinguished. The autopsy would be grim. Cause of death, drowning. But beneath the surface, there were signs. She had been raped. A predator had stalked Acme. But who? And why Mandy? The investigation, despite its urgency, stalled. No fingerprints. No witnesses. DNA was collected. But in 1989, forensic science was still crawling. And so, the evidence sat frozen in time. And Acme moved on. Or, at least, it pretended to. But Mandy's mother? She never stopped looking. And neither did her killer. The man next door. For 27 years, Mandy's case became folklore, an open wound dressed with silence. Children grew up hearing her name whispered like a cautionary tale. Families still jogged down Strand Road, but never without looking over their shoulder. Until 2013. Entered Detective Ken Gates. The new sheriff in Whatcom County had one obsession: cold cases. He reopened Mandy's file, flipping through brittle photographs, yellowed reports, and one untouched relic: the semen sample recovered from her body. Technology had evolved. DNA could now speak with terrifying precision. Gates sent the evidence for analysis. The results came back. It was a match. but not to anyone in the criminal database. So Gates went hunting, door to door, interview by interview. He asked the same question to anyone who had lived in Acme in 1989. What do you remember about Mandy Stavik's last run? Some said they saw her jog past. Others said they heard Kyra barking. Most remembered nothing. But then one name came up, repeatedly: Timothy Bass. Back then, Tim had been a quiet, awkward 22-year-old who lived just down the road. He worked for a bakery, kept to himself, and never showed much emotion. But something about his name, it lingered. When detectives visited him, Tim was polite. Too polite. He said he had no memory of Mandy's disappearance. Odd, considering everyone else remembered it vividly. More odd? He refused to give his DNA. He said his wife wouldn't like it. Said it was against his privacy. Red flag. But how do you catch a ghost? That's when Detective Gates met someone unexpected. Tim's coworker, a woman named Kim Wagner. And she had an idea, a cake, a fork, and a plan to trap a killer. The cake trap. Kim Wagner didn't look like a sleuth. But when she learned her coworker was a suspect in the town's most haunting murder, she volunteered to help in a way that only someone working in food service could. One afternoon, she brought in a chocolate cake. A friendly gesture. No one blinked. Tim took a slice, ate it, licked the fork. Then he left it behind. Kim quickly wrapped the fork, placed it in a bag, and handed it off to detectives. It was a risk. If Tim found out, there could be consequences. But that fork, it was everything. The DNA matched perfectly. Timothy Bass, after 27 years, was the man who raped and murdered Mandy Stavik. But here's where the story twists again. When he was arrested, Tim denied everything. Said the sex was consensual. That they'd been secretly seeing each other. His defense? A relationship no one, not friends, not family, not even Mandy's journals, could prove existed. The court didn't buy it. In 2019, Timothy Bass was convicted of rape and murder, sentenced to life. Justice finally served. Or so it seemed. Because behind bars, Tim started talking, and what he said next would unravel everything. But what if Tim wasn't the only one? What if Mandy had been watched for weeks, not by one man, but by many? What if the secrets of Acme run deeper than anyone ever imagined? They thought it was over. The jury had spoken. The gavel had fallen. And Timothy Bass, after decades of silence, was caged. But justice, real justice, is rarely that simple. Because sometimes monsters don't work alone. Sometimes they hide behind the faces you thought you knew. And sometimes they start talking when they think no one's listening. Prison confessions. It began in letters, scrawled in barely legible handwriting, sent from a Washington prison to a former co-worker, an old acquaintance from the bakery. Tim's words were strange, detached, repetitive. He spoke of the lie, of being set up, of how they knew, and how he wasn't the only one. Detectives intercepted some of these letters. Others came through tips from former inmates, men who said Tim wouldn't shut up about Mandy, and not just about what he did, but who else might have known. He mentioned a name, JD, and that's when everything cracked open again. Because JD wasn't just a random person. He was someone who had lived in Acme, someone who knew the Stavik family, someone with a history. The shadow behind the fence. James Donnelly, J.D., a man who lived just 2 houses down from the Staviks in 1989. Back then, James was 28, known to be a bit of a drifter, odd, quiet, always watching. He worked odd jobs, mostly around construction, and was often seen lingering on porches, nursing cheap beer, eyes distant. Nobody thought much of him. But when detectives pulled his file in 2020, it told a different story. In 1991, 2 years after Mandy's murder, James had been arrested for trespassing on the campus of Western Washington University, Mandy's school. He'd been following female students, taking photos. The charges were dropped. No one followed up. Until now. Investigators reopened the files, interviewed former classmates. They discovered something chilling. One student remembered James, said he used to linger outside the track field watching Mandy run laps. She thought he was a groundskeeper. He wasn't. And then another piece surfaced. A box, found in an abandoned storage unit once rented by James Donnelly. Inside, old newspapers, photographs, clippings of Mandy's obituary, a page torn from her high school yearbook with her face circled in red. But what stopped the room cold was a faded photograph of Strand Road, with a note scribbled on the back. She always runs alone. The accomplice theory. Suddenly, the theory shifted. Had Mandy's murder been a one-man crime or a coordinated act? Detectives brought Tim in for questioning again, this time under the guise of clarifying sentencing details. He didn't say much, but when they asked, "Did James help you?" he smiled, just a little, and said, "I'm not the only one who should be here." The investigation into James Donnelly intensified. But there was a problem. He had disappeared. No recent address. No phone. No bank accounts. No record of employment. It was as if he vanished off the grid, until one tip came in from Idaho. A nurse at a psychiatric facility recognized his face from a news segment about Mandy. She said he was there for months, under a different name. Paranoid, delusional, talking in riddles. But one thing he kept repeating: "I didn't drown her." That same day, moments before Mandy vanished, she swore she saw not one, but 2 men behind her. One in a red pickup truck, the other walking beside the road. She never reported it. She said, "I didn't want to get involved." Now, 30 years later, she wanted to make it right. And here's the most disturbing part. She said one of those men was not Timothy Bass. And she recognized the second man, too. But not from Acme. From somewhere else entirely. Who was the second man Mandy encountered that day? Was James Donnelly involved? Or was someone else lurking in the shadows? And what's buried in the red pickup truck no one ever found? Some stories end with a name, a face, a guilty verdict. But not this one. Because even after Timothy Bass was convicted for Mandy Stavik's murder, the trail didn't go cold. It got darker and wider. And when we looked closer, the picture that emerged wasn't just about one girl, one killer, or one crime. It was about a pattern, a ritual, and a town that may have let a predator walk among them for decades. The truck no one could find. There was something odd about Mandy's murder. No defensive wounds. No signs of a struggle along the roadside. She'd vanished without a scream. Investigators always believed she'd been abducted in a vehicle. Quickly, silently, several locals remembered seeing a red pickup truck near Strand Road that day, parked along the bend, engine running, but the license plate faded from memory. And strangely, no one ever claimed to own it. Timothy Bass never registered a red truck. Neither did James Donnelly. But someone did, and he left Acme shortly after Mandy's funeral. His name was Clay Myrick, the ghost of Clay Myrick. Clay Myrick was a name long forgotten in Acme. He worked as a seasonal logger in the late 80s, came to town during the holidays, lived in a trailer near the foothills, quiet, reclusive, always watching the runners. When Mandy's murder happened, Clay told people he was out of town. No one questioned him. He left soon after, moved to Oregon, and then vanished into obscurity. But in 2021, after digging through DMV records, a retired detective located a match. A red 1985 Ford Ranger registered under Clay's name. Sold in 1990. Scrapped years later. Too late for forensics. But when investigators tracked down the junkyard's archived logs, they found something chilling. A note from the tow driver. Vehicle bed stained. Smelled of river water. No explanation. No blood. No physical evidence remained. But when they interviewed the junkyard owner, he remembered something else. The guy who dropped it off said he was done with the water. And there it was again. The water. The river that swallowed Mandy. The element that cleanses but never forgets. A pattern in the water. After Mandy's case resurfaced in the 2010s, so did whispers from other counties. Other girls. Unsolved drownings. 1985, Bellingham, Washington. A 19-year-old female found in Whatcom Creek. Ruled an accidental drowning. No sexual assault kit performed. 1987, Arlington, Washington. 17-year-old jogger found face down in a stream. Police suspected alcohol. 1992, Olympia. 21-year-old college student goes missing after a run. Body found near a reservoir. Drowned. Case unsolved. Each girl was young, athletic, blonde, running alone. Each one was found in water. The cases were scattered, separated by years and counties. But when mapped, they followed a route. Logging roads, seasonal employment paths. And guess who worked those same regions, according to employment records? Clay Myrick. And another man, Timothy Bass's cousin. Name redacted in the initial reports. He, too, drove a red truck. And according to a co-worker from 1989, once made an offhand joke. Gotta be careful around here. Girls disappear into rivers. It wasn't funny then. It's horrifying now. Mandy's journal, page 42. In early 2022, Mandy Stavik, Mandy's mother, donated several of her daughter's belongings to a university archive. Among them, Mandy's diary. Investigators had combed it before. Nothing alarming, but a new page surfaced, previously stuck together from water damage. Page 42. The ink was smudged, but this line remained. Strange man near the mailbox again. Third time this week. Red truck. Keeps asking if I want to ride home. No name. No date. Just fear. And then silence. This page had been missed before, but now it added a chilling layer. Mandy may have known her killer was circling her. She may have sensed it, felt it, recorded it. But she never got the chance to finish the story, because someone finished it for her. Who was the man in the red truck that haunted Mandy before her death? Was there more than one killer? And if the drownings followed a pattern, are we looking at a serial predator who used rivers as his calling card? In episode 2, we go even deeper to uncover the cousin, the redacted interview, and a chilling confession whispered during a dying breath in a Spokane hospital. Because some killers are never caught, some are protected, and some are still watching. Subscribe to Crime Vault, because this river, it still carries secrets.